All right.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening. There are rather more people here than I was expecting, but it is Soho, I guess. Do I just say my name? Okay. My name is Barbara, and I'm an alcoholic. Well, I have been known to have a third sherry before lunch on Christmas Day, and I never drink before breakfast, unless next door's dog has been yapping since dawn. And indeed, most of my drinking is for medicinal purposes, because I do suffer with my nerves terribly. But things have got a little serious recently, and I do feel the need to talk to someone. Everything I say here is confidential, isn't it?
Of course.
Okay. Well, a girl has to protect her reputation. Okay, so, my name is Barbara, and I've come up to town on the train today. I live in a village. Actually, I live in the Britain in Bloom 2012 runner-up village. And I'm very active in the local community. Indeed, you can often see my flower arrangements in the church, and next month marks the 10-year anniversary of my management of the church plant stall, which, I might add, made over £300 last year. But I first thought I had a problem after the parish ladies' marmalade making day last December, hosted by my good friend Lizzie. I always find that time of year rather stressful, all the extra cooking and shopping. Thank goodness for mulled wine, eh? Anyway, we all arrived very early with our Seville oranges and our preserving sugar. And then, over an hour late, Wendy arrives. And what kind of oranges does Wendy bring? Eating oranges! And what type of sugar does Wendy bring? Big, standard, granulated sugar! I mean, the woman is an idiot! With her dyed hair and false nails, and her shop-bought Victoria sponge. Unforgivable. And it's not the first time she's done it either. Oh no. Last year, we put her in charge of providing the refreshments for the village Spring Flower Festival. A simple enough task. All she had to do was ensure that there were enough bacon butties to go around, scones, the tradition is cherry and raisin, and of course tea. Well, the first committee meeting she chaired was nothing more than an extended brag about her overachieving children. Not that I consider auditioning for the X Factor or sleeping with a footballer achievements. It was only during the second meeting, when I took charge, that a plan started to materialise. I mean, I said to her, "How many scones should we bring?" And do you know what she said? She said, "If we all just bring some, then I'm sure it will all work out." All work out! There would be chaos! We'd never be able to show our face in the village again. Anyway, marmalade day. Lizzie, bless her heart, took pity on Wendy and said she should go over to the corner and squeeze her oranges into juice. Producing a bottle of gin, she suggested, sorry, I shouldn't have had that cherry before I came here. She suggested that we have a gin and orange to sort of jolly things along. Well, gin started to flow, we all got a bit merry. And Marmalade made, we toddled off across the village green home. Wendy then asked if she could partake of my facility. Well, I couldn't really say no. Not that I wanted her nasty plastic shoes on my 100% wool shag pile. But I let her in, and having emptied her clearly weak bladder, she came through into my kitchen, where I was just finishing the pastry for a smoked haddock and pickled beetroot quiche. And then she asked me, could she have my jars of marmalade as well as the 2 that dear Lizzie had given her? Because she had promised to give her common little children 2 jars each. Well, all that despite having contributed nothing to the day except her idiocy. Well, I just saw red. And before I knew it, I bludgeoned her to death with a rolling pin. Thankfully, with 3 decades of WI membership under my belt, I have been to more than one lecture on butchery. So, dismembering her disgustingly overweight corpse was really no trouble at all, although I did need a bottle of brandy to steady my nerves. As to disposing of the corpse, well, that was fairly simple. I just dug some of it into the garden, some into my husband Gerald's allotment, and then put some in the freezer for the dog, the leaner cuts. I'm sure I'm going to have a wonderful crop of tomatoes this year, which will mean plenty of chutney for the harvest festival. I'm sure the vicar will be delighted. Actually, I have to say, despite being very overweight, Wendy's body was considerably lighter than that of my husband Gerald. Although, I have been attending the Keep Fit classes in the village hall recently, so maybe that explains it. And then, of course, I did electrocute him, so there was no blood loss. It was very fortunate, actually, because he was just digging a new patio, so all I had to do was drag his revolting corpse through the French windows and into the freshly dug hole. And again, I have the WI to thank for the fact that I learned the basics of paving. I just told everybody that he'd run off with one of his grubby little tarts, and no one asked any more questions. I can't say I miss him. His serial infidelities, his inability to put the toilet seat down, and the nagging feeling that I'd always married beneath me despite his money. Of course, our marriage really started to turn that year that I poisoned his parents. It was never the same after that. He blamed the sherry, called me a stupid drunken bitch. But it was very simple, really. It just took a little planning. All I did was take the chicken out of the freezer, let it defrost, and then put it back into the freezer. And I did that every day for 2 weeks before they arrived. And within hours of them leaving the house, they were both dead of food poisoning. You know, they'd even had lunch at that dreadful new gastropub, so no one even asked me what I'd fed them. And of course, there were no bodies to dispose of that time, which was most convenient. I have to say, I do enjoy getting rid of dreadful people. It must stem from that first time at boarding school. Felicity Banger. That nouveau riche tart. She made my life a living hell just because I was a vicar's daughter and had a full scholarship. You should have seen the look of surprise on her face when I lumped her round the head with a hockey stick. It was priceless. And of course, everyone knew that she was having it away with one of the ground staff, so no one even asked mousy little Barbara where her body might be. I think that was when I developed my taste for cider. There are downsides to drinking, of course. I mean, I've had to leave every single job I've ever had, following the dispatch of one colleague or another. You know, the standard of people management in this country is absolutely disgraceful. Yes. And most people can't even organise basic things. Really, I think I'm doing a public service by getting rid of them. Anyway, I really must dash. I've got 5 dozen sausage rolls and 5 dozen rock cakes to make for the church coffee morning tomorrow. Yes, it's in aid of the Children's Cancer Charity. It's such a good cause. It really is so sad that the little poppets die before their time. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. It really has been a help. And if you are ever passing through the village, do pop into the church. The flowers are always lovely. Goodbye.